The Kansas City Chiefs have wrapped up day 10 of training camp, a full padded practice, and there are a lot of notes to get to. And guys, you're going to notice some highlights already on this document. I have already recorded this document, and Clip Champs has crashed once again. I'm having a rough day, so I apologize if my tone is off. Starting here on the offensive line, Charles Goldman tells us that Chiefs rookie offensive tackle Kingsley Suamataia just looks different from some of the other big guys in warmups. He's quite the athlete. Now, there was a lot of speculation heading up into last season's draft that Kingsley Suamataia was going to be one of these 27, 28, 29, 30th overall picks. Last end of the first round type draft picks. He fell all the way to the Kansas City Chiefs in the second round, way down in the second round. Here's why I do believe that Kingsley Suamataia was actually getting real life draft smoke as a first rounder. He does, on film, have elite strength. He does, on film, have elite athleticism. He does, on film, have elite speed for an offensive lineman. None of those things really translated into numbers. So the gamble there is, do we trust the tape where he's playing mainly, he's playing decent competition, but he's not playing great competition. If you see a guy, for example, Big Ten or SEC, who the numbers don't translate, but you see that elite speed against elite competition. You see elite strength and elite skills against elite competition. You take the gamble and you take them in the first round. Now, this is what happened with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Didn't work out as a first rounder, but you kind of understand the gamble. The numbers that guy put up at the college level were insane. We have the opposite taking place here. He did not have that performance against elite level competition. He had it against good competition. So I think that there probably were teams who had him, sort of on that fringe. We could take him in the first, unless our guy is there, and it just so happened that they had 3, 4, 5 guys ahead of him that were there when they picked. So just looking at him, I do believe it, that he did have some smoke to being a first rounder. Charles also gives us this: Chiefs offensive lineman Mike Caliendo at left guard today with the first team. This tells us that none of the experiments have really panned out for the Chiefs at the left guard position while Joe Thuney is out. Mike Caliendo has a few reps from last season. Mike Caliendo played an entire season on the practice squad for the Kansas City Chiefs, so he is in the organization. He knows what's going on. Mike Caliendo is an NFL level player. I don't know that you hope he is your backup left guard. I think that he is a break in case of emergency type player. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs were probably hoping Hunter Nourzad would come in and immediately be the backup left guard. Maybe he's just behind the curve in that process. But whatever the case, Mike Caliendo finds himself there in Joe Thuney's absence. Charles also gives us this: Chiefs Wanye Morris and Lucas Niang just came in for Kingsley Suamataia and Jawan Taylor with the starters in 9-on-7. Kingsley Suamataia appears to have wrapped up the left tackle position, at least. Well, let's go ahead and read that next one as well. Matt Derrick, no rotation early at left tackle today. Kingsley Suamataia getting the first team reps. This is maybe read that later, but Kingsley, the starter for now. I think that the likely course of action is going to be pull him into the first preseason game as the starter, Maybe you give him a little bit more playing time than the rest of the starters, and you see how he does. That is going to be the great big grading curve for Kingsley. At that point, we will understand better who he is, what he does, if he is a starting left tackle level player, and what they have moving forward, how you have to treat the Wanye Morris situation. Do you have the flexibility to start maybe toying with this right there, Jawan Taylor at the right tackle position? I think a lot is hinging on this first preseason game and how we will see practices held after that. Just to finish up that tweet from Matt Derrick, on defense, Kelvin Joseph again running at the right corner opposite Trent McDuffie. If Kelvin Joseph becomes the second wide cornerback, that's going to be a huge upset. That is going to be a massive upset if he is a starting cornerback for the Kansas City Chiefs, picked up off the street on a discount level contract. Kind of madness. Jalen Watson, in my opinion, is a starting level cornerback. Other people feel as strongly about Joshua Williams as I do about Jalen Watson, and I can't say that they're wrong. So L'Jarius Sneed is gone. That stinks. The cornerback room in total may have gotten even stronger. So that's hard to say, but it might be true. At running back, Peter in parentheses or in bracket Sweeney out bracket says Carson Steele's stock appears to be rising. I believe what this means is that Carson Steele is going to be that fourth running back, not on the roster, but on the practice squad. I don't know how the Kansas City Chiefs will roster 4 running backs on the 53-man. They have surprised before in certain things that they do with those numbers. But I got to say, I don't know how they make it work. I think Carson Steele at this point is competing to be the first running back off of the practice squad. Running backs always get dinged up, right? That's just the nature of the game in the NFL, so it's not like he will be redshirted this year. But I don't see how they carry more than 3 running backs. They're going to carry a lot of offensive linemen because there's just too much unsure at the tackle positions. Joe Thuney is still coming off of injury, so I think you've got 10 there. I think you've got at least 7 wide receivers. Do the Kansas City Chiefs carry 4 tight ends? It's just the numbers crunch is going to be insane this year, and I don't see how they end up with Carson Steele on the active roster. At wide receiver, Charles gives us this. Chiefs wide receiver Xavier Worthy just caught a pretty deep ball, shook his defender with a great route. There are a little bit of conflicting stories about Xavier Worthy during this practice. Apparently, he got the snot knocked out of him at the line of scrimmage. Now, for a guy that weighs about as much as many right thighs in the NFL, that's going to happen. So long as these caught a pretty deep ball tweets outnumber the he was smashed at the line of scrimmage plays, Xavier Worthy is going to be doing all right. So long as Xavier Worthy is more... So he's playing for Andy Reid. Andy Reid's going to be able to get him off the line of scrimmage. Andy Reid is going to be able to get him in motion. Andy Reid is going to be able to get him in routes that facilitate a clean release as opposed to getting the snot knocked out of him at the line of scrimmage. There's a lot of stuff that Andy Reid is going to be able to do to protect someone like Xavier Worthy. The deep ball for this offense is going to be... I've talked a lot on this channel about how I think this Chiefs offense is going to be two different offenses. Between the 20s, it's going to be something insane. It's going to be something fast-paced. It's going to be something that is shoot for the moon. Inside the 20s, whether you're at risk of giving up a safety or you are in the red zone trying to score a touchdown, this offense can become something completely different. Xavier Worthy, with this type of performance, just go down there and we'll get the ball chucked up to you. That's going to... No one had to worry about Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He wasn't a threat. Teams, even if Xavier Worthy is not a threat, teams are going to treat him as if he is a threat until he proves otherwise. That's just what you have to do with a 4-2-1 40-yard dash lined up next to Patrick Mahomes. The next tweet here from Charles as well really goes further on that. Chiefs wide receiver Hollywood Brown had a nice catch across the middle in 7-on-7, held onto the ball through the ground. Next play, Mahomes was just too far for Brown on the sidelines. So a couple things to look at here. Nice catch across the middle in 7-on-7. These are the tough guy catches. Now, the safeties don't get to play like they once did. That's still a tough guy catch to go ahead and make, because a lot of times in the NFL, a safety's willing to take a flag. And if he's willing to take a flag, that becomes a hospital ball, right? Mahomes was just too far for Brown on the sidelines. We have seen this time and again this preseason. The ball was just out of reach. Mahomes threw it just too far. Hollywood Brown passed right through Hollywood Brown's outreached fingertips. Xavier Worthy was just unable to come down with the pass. No one was able to haul it in. That is fine. The season is not young. The season has not begun. The Chiefs have all the time in the world to get this timing down. So last season, one of the things that we talked about on the channel was the Chiefs' offense is irritating. It's bad right now. Nobody can get open. Nobody can catch the ball. Nobody can do anything on the offense. Isaiah Pacheco looks pedestrian. All of these things were true early in the season. But we kept saying here, all the Chiefs really need is one guy to get good at a thing. Just one guy to get good at a thing. And then you have Travis Kelce and a guy who's good at something. That's more than enough to move the football. And what did we see by the end of the year? Rashee Rice was pretty good at a thing. Get him the ball and let him smack people. Pretty good. Then you had Travis Kelce. The element that was surprising to defenses in the NFL was that all of a sudden you had to factor in Patrick Mahomes running as well. We talked about that here as well. Heading into the playoffs, Patrick Mahomes was not running last year. But this season, the Kansas City Chiefs start the year with Travis Kelce, who's Travis Kelce, with Rashee Rice, ostensibly, at some point, who's good at a thing. If they can figure out either Hollywood Brown or Xavier Worthy to be good at a thing, this offense is leaps and bounds ahead of last season. This offense is all of a sudden going to put the 2018 offense to shame, and that's before you factor in that you've got some guys who are good at a thing, who have the chance to be good at a thing. Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice, with back-to-back completions during the long period, did a somersault on the second one, obviously. Wow. True athlete, somersaulting. Not sure which one a somersault is. I think that's the one where it's like a cartwheel. The other one's a flip. Doesn't show up in a whole lot of scouting reports. Anyway, Rashee Rice is good at a thing. All we have to have is one of the other two to become good at a thing. And then we have this note from Charles about Justyn Ross. He had a really solid day, caught almost everything, often worked with the first team. Look, I don't care what number Justyn Ross wears. You should make him wear number 87 and call him bad, because that man was a smooth criminal today. He had this route against Joshua Williams along the sidelines, and it was just the most beautiful reception you could ever wish to see. In that, it did not look spectacular. It did not have to. It was so smooth, you almost had to miss it. Joshua Williams was blanketing him. There was no space for a reception there. I believe it was Patrick Mahomes, just lofts the ball a little bit. Justyn Ross bucks back, reaches out, and plucks the ball out of the air, does not break stride, makes a cut towards the center of the field. That is the level of athlete that we saw from Justyn Ross at Clemson. That is a level of athlete we have not seen from Justyn Ross during his time in the NFL. That is something that had been missing from his game to this point. If that is Justyn Ross, and you've got Rashee Rice, who you can hit at the line of scrimmage and he's going to smack a couple people, it can be either. It can be either Hollywood Brown or Xavier Worthy, who's the deep threat, who's good at the deep threat. You throw in Justyn Ross, who's going to be, in my opinion, and I know, fool's gold, I know, I've fallen for it before, who's going to be good at high pointing the ball, who's going to be good at back shoulder fades, who's going to be good at the four corners of the end zone, who's going to be good with these little mosses. There was a moss. He mossed Joshua Williams. Not the most impressive moss, because Joshua Williams never looked back for the ball. That's still exactly what that verb means. You are going over the cornerback to make the reception. He did that. He can do that. Just one play. Just one play in one practice. Just one play in one practice after 3 years of being in the NFL and not showing a whole lot. But it's still in there. For anyone who doubted it, it's still in there. That guy still exists in his body. He might not be as good once as he ever was, but he can be as good once as he ever was. So long as that is the actual case, so long as that is the case, he can be good at something too. This offense transcends from really, really good to nigh unstoppable. Then you got Nikko Remigio, who's sneaking around, getting open, and diving for every pass. So, hey, Pete gives us Mahomes targets on the day in team periods. Kelce with 7, Hollywood Brown with 6, Rashee Rice with 6, Xavier Worthy with 3, Noah Gray with 2, Sky Moore with 2, Justyn Ross with 2, Jared Wiley with 2, Mecole Hardman, Isaiah Pacheco, and Deneric Prince all with 1. Now, obviously, this is not surprising. Kelce had 7. That's going to happen. Kelce is the big dog. Brown and Rice both tied at 6 tells you Patrick Mahomes is dead set on reopening this offense. Patrick Mahomes is dead set, especially when you factor in Xavier Worthy at number 4. What are you doing? At number 4, but really the third highest number of targets. That means that between Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy, there are likely 9 or so deep shots. Patrick Mahomes wants to open this offense up. Patrick Mahomes is putting Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice on the same level. One thing that is surprising here, maybe, but we've talked a lot about it, Noah Gray with 2 targets, Jared Wiley also with 2 targets. Jared Wiley is, in my opinion, going to usurp that number 2 tight end position from Noah Gray. Another thing you can look at here, Sky Moore, 2 targets. Sky Moore, a second-round pick just last season. Justyn Ross, 2 targets. Justyn Ross, a guy who is not often on the active list for game day. So, is this a sign that we are seeing the ascendance of Justyn Ross? We are seeing Jared Wiley ascend on the offense, etc.? Maybe. We have to look for the trends. And then we get this note from the tight end position. Charles says, and I believe these are 2 notes on the same play. Quarterback Chris Oladokun just found rookie tight end Jared Wiley for a touchdown. Great ball to a wide-open Wiley. Nick Jacobs chimes in, 2/3 of the Chiefs' defense in the backfield. Chris Oladokun gets the ball off to Jared Wiley for a 40-yard touchdown. Impressive throw by him on the go with that amount of pressure to be perfect quickly. The 2/3 of the defense in the backfield is obviously an exaggeration. But what that tells me is that it was probably a blitz. If it was probably a blitz, that's even more impressive because, well, Jared Wiley likely had to recognize the blitz and adjust his route to a hot route. On the hot route, not only did he make the catch, he adjusted the hot route to something deep and was probably covered by a Chiefs linebacker or a Chiefs safety. Both of those positions the Kansas City Chiefs are particularly deep at. He was covered by one of those guys, still made the catch, still made a touchdown. This is impressive. If this is the case, right? Obviously, it's speculation. I haven't seen the play. Do you remember Travis Kelce when he was in his first year in the league? First 2 years in the league? First 3 years in the league? You remember, all you have to do is get on Twitter and find the gif of Travis Kelce making particular gestures behind a referee to know the level of maturity that he brought to the NFL when he first got there. Not saying anything bad about the guy. That's where a lot of players are. Just saying. Jared Wiley appears to be light years ahead of that. Am I saying he's Travis Kelce? No, absolutely not. Jared Wiley appears to be light years ahead of that as far as maturity is concerned, because this would mean if he adjusted on a hot route and won in man-on-man coverage against players who were starter-level, starter-caliber players because they play for the Chiefs at positions where the Chiefs are deep, then you've got a guy who is mature and is in his playbook for sure. Now, one note on the linebackers here. Chiefs linebacker Jack Cochran is getting some run with the top defense as Nick Bolton is out of practice with an elbow injury. I think that basically what this is in case he has to play, right? You want him to be able to know the feel of that starting defense for the Chiefs. If Nick Bolton is out any period of time, I think, however, the Kansas City Chiefs in that event are much better with an extra safety on the field. I like Jack Cochran. I'm a huge Jack Cochran fan. I was singing the praises of Jack Cochran when he was a UDFA, said he was going to make the roster, etc., etc. He's got that type of athleticism. I still think that the Chiefs are better off with an extra safety on the field in the nickel package than they are with 3 linebackers if Nick Bolton is not one of those linebackers. The final note of the day on the defensive line here from Charles. Next up was defensive tackle Fabian Levette. I've been a big fan of rookie offensive lineman Hunter Nourzad during this training camp, but Levette made him look like a rookie twice in a row, showing off some of the tools in his tool case. The first time, he beat him cleanly with a rip move. The second time, Levette beat Nourzad with a nasty swim move. They were easily the 2 best wins of the day during offensive line, defensive line work. Defensive tackles and offensive guards in OLDL drills, very difficult to get any read on because, look, that swim move looks awful pretty when there's no one standing directly next to Hunter Nourzad. Is it going to work when there's another 300-pounder in the direction that you're swim moving? Maybe. Fabian Levette, however, is an NFL player. Fabian Levette, am I saying he's a Pro Bowler? No. Am I saying he's a starter? Maybe for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are thin at defensive tackle. The Kansas City Chiefs have some players at defensive tackle that need to prove their worth. Fabian Levette should have been a draft pick. This is a player that the Kansas City Chiefs absolutely stole as a UDFA. That is how things work when you have won consecutive Super Bowls. Those guys are going to want to answer your phone call first. That's what happens when Brett Veach has put so many UDFA on the field early in their career, Jack Cochran. And that defense, that UDFA is going to take your call first. That's all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, having dropped a video about the Kansas City Chiefs every day for like 515 days in a row or something. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.